In the bustling city of Okayama, Japan, in 1989, a boy named Naoki Yamamoto was born into a world where less than 1% of the population was Muslim. His childhood was ordinary, his teenage years unremarkable. But at 19 years old, something happened that would set him on an unexpected path. Naoki fell seriously ill. For weeks he lay in a hospital bed, staring at white ceilings, listening to the beeping of machines, wondering if he would survive. The illness was severe enough to make him question everything he had taken for granted: his health, his future, his very existence. When he finally recovered, Naoki was not the same person. The brush with mortality had awakened something deep within him, a hunger for meaning, for purpose, for answers to questions he had never dared to ask before. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What happens after death? Who is God, really? These questions consumed him, and so, seeking answers, he enrolled at Doshisha University in Kyoto, one of Japan's most prestigious Christian institutions, founded in 1875 by a Christian missionary. Then came that afternoon in the university library. It was a typical day. Students whispered over textbooks. The smell of old paper filled the air. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. Naoki was searching for a book on Christian theology when his hand accidentally brushed against a thin volume on the shelf. The title caught his eye: A Brief Introduction to God. The author's name was unfamiliar: Khawla Kaori Nakata. Curious, he pulled it out. The book was written in simple, clear Japanese, easy to understand. He opened it, intending to skim a few pages before returning to his Christian studies. But from the very first paragraph, he was captivated. Khawla Kaori was a Japanese woman, a scholar who had converted to Islam and dedicated her life to translating Islamic texts into Japanese. She had translated the Tafsir al-Jalalain, one of the most respected Quranic commentaries, making it accessible to Japanese readers for the first time. In this small book, she explained the Islamic concept of Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God, in a way that was crystal clear, logical, and profound. God is one, not three in one, not divided, not incarnated, simply, purely, absolutely one. The Creator who needs nothing and whom everything needs. The Eternal who was never born and will never die. The All-Powerful who does not become weak, does not sleep, does not forget. As Naoki read, something inside him shifted. These words answered the questions that had been haunting him for months. The confusion he had felt about the Trinity suddenly made sense, because the problem wasn't with his understanding. The problem was with the concept itself. His hands began to tremble. Tears filled his eyes. Right there, in the middle of the university library, surrounded by Christian theology books, Naoki Yamamoto wept. Students looked at him strangely, but he didn't care. He had just encountered truth, and it shook him to his core. He checked out the book and took it home. That night he read it again, and again. He couldn't sleep. Every page felt like a revelation, every sentence like a key unlocking doors in his heart that he didn't even know were closed. By morning, Naoki had made a decision. He had to meet the person who wrote this book, or at least someone who could teach him more. He discovered that Khawla Kaori had passed away, but her husband, Professor Hassan, was a theology lecturer at the very same university. Naoki found his email address and, with shaking fingers, typed out a message. Dear Professor Hassan, I am a Christian student at Doshisha University. I read your wife's book and I need to speak with you. Please. The response came quickly. Professor Hassan invited him to his office. The meeting was emotional. Naoki arrived with a notebook full of questions, but before he could ask even one, he broke down in tears again. Professor Hassan, a gentle man with kind eyes and a warm smile, simply listened. I feel like I've been searching for something my whole life, Naoki said through his tears, and I just found it in your wife's book. Professor Hassan smiled. My wife spent her life making Islam accessible to Japanese people. She would be honored to know her work touched your heart. That meeting was the first of many. Professor Hassan became Naoki's mentor, patiently answering his questions, lending him books, introducing him to Islamic teachings. But he never pressured Naoki to convert. He simply presented the truth and let it speak for itself. Months passed. Naoki was learning, absorbing, questioning. He studied Arabic, read the Quran in translation, attended Islamic lectures. But he still hadn't taken the final step. Something held him back. Professor Hassan suggested something bold. Come with me to Malaysia. See Islam in a Muslim-majority country. Experience it, not just study it. Naoki agreed. The trip to Malaysia opened his eyes. He saw Muslims praying together, families breaking fast during Ramadan, communities supporting each other. Islam wasn't just a theology, it was a living, breathing way of life. But still, he didn't convert. Next, Professor Hassan took him to Indonesia, the country with the world's largest Muslim population. Naoki was amazed by the diversity, the culture, the warmth of the people. He attended Friday prayers at grand mosques, visited Islamic schools, spoke with scholars. But still, something held him back. Finally, in 2009, Professor Hassan said, "There's one more place you need to see, the heart of Islamic learning, Egypt." And so, at the age of 20, Naoki Yamamoto found himself in Cairo, the city of 1,000 minarets, walking the same streets where scholars had walked for over a millennium. He enrolled in Arabic language courses at Al-Azhar University, one of the oldest and most prestigious Islamic institutions in the world. Every morning, he would wake to the sound of the adhan, the call to prayer, echoing across the city. Every evening, he would see families gathering for iftar during Ramadan. It was during this Ramadan that everything changed. Naoki was staying in a modest apartment building in a working-class neighborhood. The building had a bawab, a gatekeeper, an elderly Egyptian man named Ahmed, who sat by the entrance, greeting residents, keeping watch, doing small repairs. Ahmed was poor, very poor. His galabia was faded and patched, his sandals worn thin. He lived in a tiny room barely bigger than a closet, with just a mat to sleep on and a small electric fan. But every evening, when Naoki passed by, Ahmed would smile and greet him warmly. "Ahlan wa sahlan, ya Naoki. Welcome, welcome." Naoki had been observing the Ramadan fast out of respect and curiosity. He wanted to understand what Muslims experienced during this holy month, the hunger, the thirst, the spiritual discipline. One evening, as the sun began to set and the time for iftar approached, Naoki looked out his window. Below, in the building's courtyard, he saw Ahmed preparing to break his fast. The old man spread a small cloth on the ground and sat down. From a plastic bag, he pulled out his iftar meal. Naoki expected to see dates, bread, maybe some soup, the traditional foods he had seen other Egyptians eating. But Ahmed had only one thing, a single cucumber and a glass of water. That was it, nothing else. Naoki's heart sank. This man had fasted for over 14 hours under the scorching Egyptian sun, and all he had to break his fast was one cucumber. Naoki expected to see sadness on Ahmed's face, disappointment, maybe bitterness at his poverty. But when the adhan sounded and Ahmed picked up that cucumber, his face transformed. His eyes closed, a peaceful smile spread across his weathered features, and he whispered, "Bismillah."